Got it. I'm getting all of the alerts. There we go. Now we got the recording started. And so just to kind of quick recap for that recording that started, we are here to talk about the WorkReady Summer 22 startup contracts. We will be focusing a lot of our time today on the details that we expect you all to be focusing on between January and June. We are also in a new era. We'll talk a little bit about what's new. We'll give a little bit of the basis of what is driving PYN, what are the things that you should be aware of, and then we'll really dive into our information about the details of your scope of work, what you should be expecting to do. We will go through some of the save the dates, some really important information, and then we are going to give you all an option. Either if you are a returning provider who has gone through a lot of these kickoffs, and when we say returning provider, we're really talking about you as an individual staff person. So if you have operated programs in the past, if you yourself have done this work, what we're going to do is give you some homework. We're going to send you back with the slide deck, have you look through the details of that slide deck, and we will be sharing what we're calling a Jamboard, which you can start dropping in information. So we're going to let you go early, but hope that you have used that time on your calendar to review the rest of the slides and the details. This is really just going over a lot of the things that we have done year after year. And so what we're asking you to do is take that time, go through those decks, and add any questions that you might have to our Jamboard, which is a collaborative board. And then tomorrow we'll be really focusing on spending some time going through those questions. For staff that are new, if you have not gone through any of our PYN trainings, or if you're just new to the WorkReady system, or you want a little bit of a refresher, our team will stay on and we'll be doing a deeper dive into some of the systems and processes that may be familiar to our veteran staff. And so instead of keeping everybody on to go through, we are going to take that pause and call that out. And so again, we don't want to be sharing the same information, but we want to make sure that everybody has that information. We highly recommend and really truly strongly encourage anyone who has not run a summer program before to stay. And if you have, you're welcome to stay and get that refresher, but we also recognize how busy folks are. And some people also are better at learning through going through the slides on their own and diving in. And then tomorrow we'll have that time to really dive in and ask the questions. So now, Michelle, we can jump into that who's who section. So just to make sure folks are aware of who is who, as we are saying, just a quick hit. What is PYN? Who is PYN? PYN creates educational and employment opportunities for youth and young adults. And to make opportunities, our role is to build systematic solutions to close gaps in youth serving systems. So this is really where we are today, right? Systematic work. We have how many? Nearly 100 people that are coming together from over 50 different organizations. That's what we talk about with systematic solutions. We support and train youth serving organizations to deliver high quality programs. Exactly what we're doing here today. We're doing the trainings. We're making sure that you have the tools and information that equip you to be able to run programming. We engage employers and system leaders. And so we'll talk a little bit about, we talk about worksite development. We're really trying to lean in and make PYN play a larger role in that space. But it's also what we tend to call what we call a dual client relationship. We're working with you all as our youth serving organizations to really be our youth voice and our youth driver. At the same time, we work with our employers and our system leaders around what is the workforce system that we are preparing young people for. And that's really definitely a role that we play. And then those comprehensive service networks. And when we talk about networks, again, that's what we're looking at here today, a network of organizations, stakeholders, providers, employers that are all working together towards that common goal. What I will do a call out, if you haven't been to pininc.org in a while, please take a minute to visit. We have revamped our website and we really have updated some of our information. One of our goals and the feedback that we've heard from providers, from young people, from our stakeholders was that our information was not that easy to understand and it was hard to navigate. And so we released a new website in the late fall. And so if you haven't had a chance, please take a poke around. Hopefully that also provides some clear details about the work that we do and how we get connected and how we work with all of you. So just a quick plug. Thank you to our communications team for spearheading that. We have one of our members here, Stephen Tyson. And so just a quick call out to that. You can move ahead, Michelle. So in terms of kind of programmatic support in the leadership level, these are the staff that really, are the ones that are in those leadership positions here at PYN. We are certainly available to troubleshoot and answer questions, but you should think of the folks on this slide as the people that you need to elevate questions to. And so you have Stephanie Gambone, our Executive Vice President. She is really the executive leader at PYN, responsible for the overall implementation of the summer system. This is where I would say if you're having a real big problem that you have not gone through all the rest of the channels, or for some reason you're not getting what you need, that is when you need to elevate up to Stephanie. But we have a lot of other staff and support that I will be going through that ideally you would not have to get up there, but we want to make sure you're aware of that. The next level would be me. I am the Senior Director of Programs, and I'm responsible for the overall service delivery of the summer system, as well as the rest of our programmatic portfolio at PYN. And so many of you know me or have seen me. I kind of play this role here where I am the one that's really talking about the larger system, our philosophies. When folks need kind of questions to negotiate regarding program implementation, I'm the one most of you are talking to, which is wonderful. And so if you haven't met me yet, by all means, very nice to meet you. With that being said, we also have Michelle DePolter. She is the Director of Program Compliance and Monitoring. And so that's really her responsibility is the development and monitoring of our processes and procedures related to program implementation and compliance. Michelle is really the one that is driving what documents, what materials, what do we need to turn in, where might we have wiggle room, where might we have the ability to collect different documents that aren't the norm. And so she really is the kind of guru of all of our compliance and monitoring, and really helps us kind of come up with solutions where possible, but then also holds us in line where it's not. We also have Erica Feldman, who is our Director of Program Implementation. And so Erica is overseeing our team of program implementation, which I'll get to next, but she really is spearheading the programmatic portfolio and the work that all of you are doing related to training and the materials and the resources and the continuous improvement. And so we are really excited for this as the leadership team. So when you kind of have those questions and you're going back, you can always refer to these slides. The next one, Michelle, you were right. We're looking at program support. So here are the people that are really working day to day, that for the most part are the ones that you will be in contact with the most. And so we have Jesus Diaz, who is our Senior Project Manager for our Customer Service Center. Some of you may have worked with Jesus last summer when we launched our Customer Service Center for WorkReady. We are happy that we were able to transition Jesus from a seasonal team member when we built up the WorkReady Customer Service Center, and the work that he did to spearhead it made us as the organization realize that we need this full time and year round. And so Jesus has joined that team. We are currently looking to fill a senior project manager for our program implementation. And so many of you remember Sabrina. We were sad to see her transition from PYN back in November, but we are working to fill that vacancy. So in the meantime, I think you'll see both Erica and I play some of the roles that we have previously seen that senior project manager play as we build and the rest of the team really, as we work to bring that person on, hire that person and get them onboarded, you'll start to see that person as well. Oh, Michelle, you're jumping a little bit ahead for me. Then we have our program managers. These are the team that you will really be talking to the most day to day. So we have right here, Rashay Walton. She is spotlighted right now. We also have Kai Hardy. I'm not sure if folks are doing the spotlight. So we also have Kai Hardy. Michelle Miles and Dornella Harvey. And so those are our program managers, and they are really working with a set of providers each to ensure that you as provider organizations can implement all aspects of your scopes of work. Rashay Walton and Kai Hardy are our leads for WorkReady summer programming, but Michelle Miles and Dornella Harvey may be working with you if you are an organization that is running other programs in our WorkReady, or sorry, our PYN portfolio. So especially our providers who may also run programs in our E3 networks, you may hear from Michelle and Dornella in addition to Rashay and Kai. Tim Cooper is our special projects manager, and he does a lot of work developing and implementing programs for youth within targeted populations. And so Tim really helps us with making sure that young people connected to the child welfare systems, dependent care systems, juvenile justice systems, certain targeted schools such as the community schools, and just young people that we want to make sure have stronger access, and creating better pipelines and referral networks so that those young people can get connected. And then finally, Darielle Dinkins, who is our project manager for continuous improvement, and she really works with continuous improvement across the year, professional development options, also very connected to the OST system. So folks that are kind of overlapping in those will definitely recognize Darielle. And she will really be spearheading a lot of some of our training and making sure that you have the materials and so forth. You'll hear from a lot of our team today as we go through different sections, but we want to make sure that there's an easy place for you guys to go back and know who's who. You can now move forward, Michelle. So our training and support. So who do you go to with all of these names if you have problems or issues in these different areas? And so when you're talking about enrollment and eligibility, PYN systems, worksite agreements, clearances, troubleshooting of payroll entry into Pindex, that is really going to be to your main program managers. So Kai and Rashay Walton. Many of you have received introductions from Kai and Rashay over the course of the last week. If you're not sure who that is, please reach out to the two of them, and then we will make sure we identify who is the right person that you should be talking to. But really what we are doing this year is making sure that you have your lead program manager. And so that staff person, rather than what we did last year with summer support, where things were getting a little bit lost, we want to make sure that you have a clear identified program manager that is working with your organization across all of your programs at PYN. And they are really the ones that are going to troubleshoot. Now, if you have issues with payment, meaning young people who have not been paid or have issues with payment, that is when you would email workreadyhelp@pininc.org, and that goes to our customer service team. And so really what we are talking about here is our program managers are lead on everything related to your programmatic implementation, your day-to-day, what are you doing as a provider? When it comes to troubleshooting young people's issues that are dealing with their pay stubs and their payments, that is when you would elevate to WorkReady Help. So just kind of calling out those nuances. When we look at programmatic support and technical assistance, accessing or navigating our PYN systems, our quality review and file collection program survey plans, this is all going through your program manager. Your program managers will then coordinate within the organization to address your problems or questions if they do not have the direct answer. And so we really want to try and streamline that so that all of you have that very clear main point of contact, and that main point of contact also is aware of what's going on with your program, and then they will work internally to get the resources and the supports that you need. So we can move forward, Michelle. Outside of the kind of programmatic implementation, we do want to call out that things that are related to fiscal and administrative support, so your contracts, your budgets, your invoicing, that all goes to contracts@pininc.org. And so if you have questions related to that world, that is where you should go. And then regarding social media, events and supports, promotional materials, media outreach, press events, and just general branding and being a brand ambassador of PYN, you should be emailing communications@pininc.org. And so again, all of this information will definitely be posted. And so this is just, think of these slides as quick hits of like, who do I talk to? This is your quick area to go back and make sure that you have your contact information. So we can go ahead and move on. I want to take a pause to celebrate our successes. We did a lot over the past 2 years. And what I will say is in 2021, we were able to serve over 6,600 young people, exceeding our numbers from 2020. And so I think that we just want to pause and make sure everybody has a chance to pat themselves on the back. And so 6,600 young people with opportunities last summer. Oh, not yet, not done yet. Over 80 providers. Young people earned over 4.8 million, nearly $5 million that were put into young people's pockets in summer of 2021. And 49% of young people responded that they had a satisfied with their experience. So up here you see our link to our Navigating Summer Youth Employment. I highly recommend taking a look at it. I think you'll see your programs, your photos. We interviewed several of you for deeper dives. And so just know that this is a document that we can really share, that you as providers should be knowing that you are part of that success. And so we celebrate success on behalf of the system. But what we want to do next is to celebrate individual success. And so we are, you can go ahead, Michelle. What we are going to do is do a quick little pause. And to start our day off, we want to break out and share success stories. You know, instead of, obviously we have nearly 100 people here. So we are going to get you over into breakout rooms. It's going to be about 10 minutes. We're going to ask you to share some of your success from the past year. Some of the topics that you should be thinking about. What was there a particular program innovation that you as an organization implemented that was great? Was there a particular participant who overcame a barrier to have a successful experience? Was there something that you learned about yourself as a result of some of the major shifts that we did last year and that we've all been experiencing over 2 years? And then was there something that surprised you in a positive way about the program, something that you weren't expecting or that you as an individual or an organization overcame that you were excited about? And so our team is going to just assign us. We're not going to do any more than 10 minutes. We're going to try and do kind of smaller groups. When we break out, share, quickly say your name, your organization, and one of the ideas about here. This is really our time to share and be information sharing about this. And so just a quick call, like you can copy these questions from the chat and bring them with you to your breakout room so that you know what some of the questions are, or you can kind of just share what people are excited about as we go into 2022. So Madison, you can go ahead and we can move those folks to the breakout rooms. So you should start all seeing that little.
Is this our room?
Let me see. You might not be assigned because you're the host, maybe.
Oh,
I can
okay.
try to put you in a room.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh. Oh. Hi, folks that are joining. We are in breakout rooms. And we're discussing the questions in the chat. I'm just going to place you. Hi, Steve. Okay, Kyle, let me see if I can figure this out.
Okay, no worries.
You're like not on the list at all, which makes me think I might not be able to place you.
Okay.
But you know what you could do if you want to go to a room? You could open up breakout rooms and like join yourself.
Okay.
Just pick a room that looks good.
Yep, I will do that. Thank you, Madison.
You're welcome.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I will just call out, we always love to do these breakouts in this way. And I know that that was quick, but hopefully you got to meet some new people, hear from some things. But what I will just bring back from this breakout is, everybody in my breakout was able to share something about the individuals. So when we think about the questions, I think all of the folks in my breakout talked about a particular participant or a group of participants that really overcame. And it really touched me because I feel like we are here as PYN, our role, my role oftentimes is to talk about the big numbers, the 6,000, the $5 million dollars in young people's pockets. But when I get to hear those stories of that young individual who never thought that they would go to college, and through the summer program, hearing a college access training, and then leaving within 6 weeks to really think, hey, I can go to college and I have this different thing. To me, that is so amazing. And, I genuinely love to hear those things, to hear about the perseverance of young people who, through everything else that they are going through, are showing up to these programs, are working with you as providers. I know sometimes we get frustrated, sometimes things throw us curveballs, whether that be a global pandemic or a snowstorm or a new variant, or something that PYN is going to throw your way that you get frustrated about. At the end of the day, what we can look back on is that young people are impacted so much by these programs. And that's what makes us show up to work every day. That's what makes us persevere on our own to move through and show young people that we're here to show up for them so that they can have those better opportunities moving down. And so I just would say, when we think about it, when it gets hard, lifting up some of those stories is always the best thing for me. My team knows a lot of the times on Fridays, we're in the office and I'll send out a quick note and I'll call out, this was a hard week, but this was some of the really things that I celebrated. And as we continue to go through these programs and work to support young people, I think it's always important to ground ourselves in who are we supporting, and the work that we do is really powerful and impactful. So thank you all for sharing in your breakout rooms. Even in that quick 5 minutes, it was uplifting for me, and I hope it was the same to you. So we're going to move forward. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what's new. I'm going to give a high level overview. Michelle, if you want to hit that kind of next button, you'll see as we move through, oh, it went away. I thought that we had the little icon. So as we move through, we're going to have kind of a little icon. It looks like a rocket ship that shows up in our future slides that'll tell you kind of this is a new thing. It'll be a visual cue to really talk about, hey, this is new. But I wanted to start out by kind of grounding us in why. A lot of times we'll get the question of like, well, why are we doing it different? Like why? Like you did it different last year. Why are you doing it different again? And so I want to just kind of pause and give everybody some insight into what I look at every day and how what's driving me. And so first of all, when we talk about the elements driving change, this is not a comprehensive list, but this is a little bit of what are some of the key factors that we're looking at a lot that then trickle down into what are we seeing with WorkReady and how it shows up. And so we want to just be transparent with all of you about the fact that in our current workforce landscape, we are seeing significant competition from a traditional labor market. And so we know that young people are able to go out and get opportunities that are kind of out compensating what WorkReady had been. And so we know the value that we're bringing in terms of not just a paycheck into the pocket, but also the skill development, the caring relationships with adults, the exploration about the future of work. But at the same time, we know young people are making decisions that's best for them and their family, and we're seeing that competition. We're also seeing across the workforce system a significant transition from paper to electronic systems. This is not related to PYN paperwork, but this is related to anything in a workforce. Every job nowadays, you are applying electronically. The likelihood that you are going in and turning in a paper application is lower and lower and lower. The likelihood that young people are applying to colleges and post-secondary, financial aid, anything, these are all in electronic systems. And we really, as an organization, feel that we need to make sure we're equipping young people to be able to manage and navigate and have that digital literacy, because it's not just a work-ready thing. It is a life skill. All of us are here today on an electronic system. We are not in person, and this is the way of the world. This is the way that I think we're all seeing the workforce move to. And we want to make sure young people in our networks are prepared and equipped to navigate those systems. We are also seeing that it is no longer a universal process for young people to turn in paperwork. What is needed from site to site is changing. And we are going to see this more and more, especially as we see different vaccination mandates, different clearance requirements. That is forcing our system to rethink how we are doing paperwork, because it is no longer a wage packet or an incentive packet. It is a wage packet that needs a clearance and proof of vaccination based off of the work site. It is a wage packet that doesn't need either of them because of the particular place. And so each individual young person may have standard documents that they need to do to participate, but then there will be the reality of, I'm going to place you in this particular program, and as a result of that, or this particular work site, and as a result of that, you might need more. And I think we all are going to need to be equipped of helping young people navigate those realities, but as a program, that also means that that changes how we collect documents, how we turn things in, and we are really, as an organization, looking to align with that. We are also dealing with a business community that continues to operate in hybrid or virtual settings. And so as much as we, as a lot of our network, are really pushing to get young people back into in-person, we are also seeing that many of our business partners are still in the hybrid or virtual settings themselves. And so it's really important that we're thinking about what the system looks like, how we as providers and youth serving organizations are providing supports and spaces, but then also thinking in different ways about how we're connecting work sites. And so those are some of the actual labor workforce landscapes that are changing. At the same time, there are system goals within WorkReady that we are driving. One is slot and budget utilization. This, for me, is key. We do a lot of fundraising. We put a lot of money into a larger pot to support youth serving programs in the summer. And consistently, we have fallen short in terms of the number of opportunities that we are providing compared to the number of opportunities that we could provide. And so slots are going unfilled. Money is going unused. We are, as a WorkReady system, putting a lot into place. Many of you have heard me talk in December about our new contracting approach. This is really for us. We are looking to make sure that we are utilizing every single dollar and every single slot as effectively and efficiently as possible. And this means that we are leveling some of the things. We are looking at how are we compensating? How are we doing our contracts? So this is really driving a big part of our change. It's showing up in a lot of different places. We are also looking to increase participant access to programmatic information, including their worksite and payroll details. This is something that we've heard from you all. This is something that we've heard from young people, that while you have access to Pindex and often can see a lot of things, young people never did. And we are looking to resolve that for this summer. And I will talk a little bit about how we're doing that. But in doing that, that means change and it means transition. But we're looking to get more information at young people's fingertips versus having them have to ask the questions and wait for an answer. We're also looking at automation and system integration wherever possible. So how are we moving things along that does not require manual steps, but can be automated? We finally are looking to transition as a system to one participant file versus multiple programmatic files. And so for those that have been with us in the past, we have always had to collect a youth file by program, meaning if you had a file last summer, you're going to have another file again. We are driving towards having Farah Farnese, have connected to PYN in any of our programs. I now have a participant profile that I can build and go back to and add things based off of each program that I might connect with over the course of my entire workforce journey as it might connect with PYN. So these are all things that are really driving us and driving change. You can go ahead and go to the next one. And so here are some of the highlights. This is not a comprehensive list. This is not the detail about that, but Michelle, if you want to click, the first thing that I want to call out, and I hope this is welcomed with excitement, we are officially increasing compensation for young people in our WorkReady programs in 2 ways. And so first, we are offering a $150 incentive for the first 5,000 young people who complete qualification by May 2022. And so we have set aside funding to really try and get that carrot with the stick. This is not a allocation per provider. This is based off of the whole system. So this is the first 5,000 young people who get all of their paperwork based off of the programmatic paperwork. We'll go into this in a little bit more detail later when we talk about what qualification versus onboarding is, some different language, but we'll talk about that more. But that's one exciting thing. So we'll be able to provide that to young people with payments starting May 6th. And so, push young people, know that it's not going to be an automatic. It will operate through PYN's payroll system. But the first payment, once we get to kind of end of April, we'll do that pull, see how many we have. Those are the first in, and then we'll do rolling payments until we hit that 5,000. We are also increasing the wage for any of our wage programs to $11 an hour. So that is going from $9 last year to $11. And then finally, we are increasing our max incentive to $1,000. For those that might have been part of our programs in the past, we've, weighed the pros and cons. There will be tax implications, but there are tax implications for wage programming as well. And so we felt that it was better for young people, to really have more. And then, yes, I see this allows us to be a little bit more competitive in the market. We recognize that this is not going up to that $15 an hour that we're seeing, but I think it allows you as programs to really be at least talking about a little bit more competition with some of these higher paid, and then all of the values that your programs are doing. So we're very, very excited about this. This will be rolled out in our kind of public messaging when we launch the summer system on the 15th. But if you are talking with young people, you are able to share this information. We're officially rolling it out. And so we are sharing that as of summer programming. So for those that run OST programs, that is not changing any of our current programs. We're not all of a sudden going to increase current programs. Those programs will operate the same way that they have been through June. But as of July 1, across our summer system, and then the rest of the WorkReady system and E3 systems down the line, we will see this increase across our programs. The next thing, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, is that we are doing a new provider contracting process. Many of you are in the midst of this. If you have questions about it, there is another recording and info session and FAQs that have been shared. But I think the highlights is that we have our contracts that started earlier than we've ever had that are focused on this January to June time period and this startup activity. And then we will have an implementation contract, which will be starting as of July 1. You'll be notified at the beginning of Q4 on that level. This is very much tied to our slot utilization and budget utilization efforts. We want to make sure that we are funding our providers with the right slot levels at the right amounts, so that you guys can operate your programs at that highest level. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is we have a new what's called HRIS system, Human Resource Information System. We are going to be adopting, it's called Centrally HR. And so this will allow participant access and participant profile, meaning young people will be able to log in and see their information about the status of their paperwork, about the placement of their, the placement of the work sites, the work site detail, They'll also be able to know how much time has been entered, what their pay stubs are. All of that will be at their fingertips through this new system. We're also looking at electronic timesheet. That is going to be some different processes for young people, for providers, for work sites. We will roll those things out as we get closer to July, but that is what that looks like. What I will call out is that 2022 will be a transition year. We as PYN made the decision to look at 2022 as a transition versus waiting to 2023 after the system is fully set up. And so we will be talking about this a little bit more as we go through. But when I say transition year, that means that some activities will occur in Pindex at the start, meaning application, intake, some of the early steps that young people will follow that a lot of you all as providers are familiar with will occur in Pindex. And then there will be a transition and migration to the new system that will occur starting in April. And that is when young people and you will start getting connected to this new system and moving through. We made that choice because we felt it was really, really critical to push the needle with this new opportunity rather than waiting and using the system that we know the Pindex system that we know has flaws. So I just want to call out that that's going to be a reality and we want you to work with us, but we're looking at the longer term benefits. And we really believe that this is the right choice and the right shift. We also are looking at an increased role in PYN and participant and worksite qualification. And so a lot of the feedback that we got last year when we launched the program locator and put referral codes out was that some of our provider network really struggled with, I don't know these young people, I'm not sure if they're ready, I'm focusing on the kids that I'm working with. So PYN is going to lean in for the providers that are smaller or maybe not equipped to kind of take any young people. We are really going to, as PYN, take a stronger role in connecting young people who are not already connected directly to a provider to start collecting paperwork, meaning we are going to set up systems so that young people can turn in their IDs, their I-9, not their I-9s, their socials, their all of those kind of vital docs. So then that way we are in a place where we are saying, this is a young person that is fully qualified. We've done all of those steps so that when we get to that April 15th, or even through April and May, and we're saying to you as a provider, hey, we see you have some open slots. We are not just referring a young person that's filled out an application. We are referring young people who have completed some of those steps, that have turned in the paperwork, and that we have said, yes, you're qualified for WorkReady as a whole. Now let's get you connected to a provider who could place you in a position and then fill out the additional paperwork with you. We are looking to also centralize and streamline worksite intake, really looking to mimic the way young people move through our systems, where everybody, no matter which provider, is following the same experience of filling out an application, getting enrollment, onboarding, qualification paperwork, and then onboarding paperwork. We're looking to mimic that same experience. And so you'll see PYN play a stronger role in that with a centralized area. We also are looking to play a stronger role in engaging work sites not connected to providers. And so this has been a huge element of feedback from many of you, knowing that we're seeing more and more work sites that are in hybrid settings, knowing that we're really asking you to serve as many young people. What we've heard is, if I had more places to place people, I could serve more young people. And so we're really looking to help you solve that problem. Hey, we see that you have 50 kids, but you only have sites for 25. If we give you sites for another 25, can you serve that 50? We want that answer to be yes. And we want it to be easy enough for you to say, yes, by all means, we can serve more young people if we have places for them to go. And so we're really looking to play a stronger role in that space. So that is really kind of, we'll just kind of pause there. You'll hear a little bit more about these things. You'll hear in terms of detail in these slides as we go through. You'll hear updates. What I will say is, another thing to call out is we are starting earlier. In previous years, we have not kicked off this program. We're about 4 to 6 weeks ahead of anything we've ever done. And that also means that I don't have all the answers. We felt that it was better for us to get you all on board, to start with the things that we knew, start with the things that we know. and move forward with you. As we know more, we will share more. We are going to go through the things that are known today, the things that we have answers on. We encourage you to ask the questions. What I will be candid about is some of the questions we might have to say, we won't know that for another 4 weeks. We made the choice as a system to start earlier, knowing that there were unknowns, because we want to make sure that people are coming along with us and allowing you guys to get your contracts in, get your staff on board. But I think you need to know that sometimes we're going to say we don't know, or we're going to roll that out later. And so we've made choices in the past of waiting to do these trainings until March when we've gotten all those answers. But we then felt that that stalls the system. And so I will just kind of call out again, this is a transition year. We are really working to do things better and new. What I will also say is we went through 2 years of pandemic. We saw 2020 and 2021. I will recognize we are still in the midst of pandemic. I don't think anybody thought it was going to go this long when we all shut down back in March of 2020. But at the same time, we're getting to a place where it is what the future of work looks like, what the future of our programs look like. So from a PYN perspective, while we recognize we're still in pandemic and there's still things that are happening, this is what we believe the system will look like. This is no longer kind of COVID related intervention. This is what the programs are looking like based off of everything that we know now, based off of how young people work, based off of how adults are working, based on how the system's working. And so this is what we are doing to start to chart the path forward of what the WorkReady system looks like as a whole. And with that being said, that means that we are transitioning from one system to another. We're changing some processes that better align with how the world of work operates and how we are setting ourselves up for these systems. So that is definitely what we are looking forward to. And I personally am really excited. Hopefully you see that from my presentation so far. And I hope that you guys are kind of a partner with us in how we embrace change and the unknown as we continue to forge on to provide the best experiences for young people. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Erica. She's going to walk everybody through the details a little bit more around the day-to-day programmatic implementations of your scopes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So Michelle DePolter, if you don't mind, would you bring us back to slide 2? I just want to take a moment to welcome a lot of folks into the room that weren't necessarily here at the start. Our numbers have grown by about 20, and then we can jump back ahead. But welcome everyone. I know a bunch of you. There's a lot that I don't know. My apologies, Michelle. I didn't realize that was so hard to do in that mode. But we heard from Sarah for a welcoming and open remarks. We went through who's who. We had a breakout to share some successes and highlights from last year. And then we just spent a good long while learning about what's new. And those are really important updates. And now we're going to take a deeper dive into our summer startup. One thing that Farah also shared early on was that we're going to spend about the next hour or so on the things that you see listed on the agenda, starting at WorkReady Startup. And then allow those of you who feel pretty confident about these steps and have run WorkReady programs before to exit the Zoom room. Your program manager will be sending you the complete slide deck, as well as the link to a Jamboard where you can put questions based on the different sections of this presentation. And you can take some time on your own to look through. Those of you who have never run a WorkReady program, even if your provider organization has, but if you personally have not, we're gonna encourage you strongly to stay back. And Rashay and Kai will be presenting a deeper dive on the enrollment. And yes, you will receive the slide deck no matter which pathway you pick to stay on or to leave. You will get the full slide deck when it's available. You'll get the recording. Zoom takes a minute to share that with us, but we will share that. And we will share a couple of other links to a survey we need everyone to fill out, and the Jamboard where you can record your questions. And then tomorrow morning, which is mandatory, we will come back to go through and take questions and answers per section. So I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes to reorient us to where we are and to welcome about 30 of you who have joined since we started. So welcome. We are really excited for this summer. We're excited for the changes, and we're ready to dive in. So I apologize, Michelle, that you have to go one by one. I didn't realize that's how it worked, but we are going to take a deeper dive. For those of you who just joined, you're getting the quick review of our slide deck and the things that we already shared. Quick run through what's new. Some of our successes, highlighting that change to $11 an hour and $1,000 for the max incentive. So if you're new, there's really critical things in here if you just joined us to go back and review. So during startup, your startup LOI and contract, if you have not seen the scope of work or the LOI, you should ask whoever signs those sorts of things at your organization if you can see that, because it contains really the directions for what you need to do over this next period of time. But there are 5 elements. The first one is to engage, qualify, and onboard eligible participants. To do that, 2 things that are required in your scope of work are having in-person enrollment sessions for young people at least twice a month from February to June. And we'll talk more about this, but you will need to communicate with your program manager when you're doing those. And you are required to have a website. It can be a portion of your existing website or a separate website live and ready to go by February 15th that instructs young people how to get connected to your program. You need to complete a program plan. Same as last year, not really many changes to it other than to update the incentive workbook to allow for this $1,000. Recruit high quality work sites and place participants in those work sites, comply with operational procedures, and attend workshops and trainings. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into these 5. Most of this is on number 1, and that's really where you're kicking off, is on engaging, qualifying, and onboarding participants. And just to spend a moment on those 3 words, they're a little bit different this year, but the engaging is the intake. It's reaching out, connecting, getting young people to go to the PYN website and hit apply. Qualifying, we're going to go into the details of this, but it's the first level of documents and all of that. Onboarding is that final step where you're doing the specific things for that job, like an I-9, or if you need to demonstrate that you're vaccinated. So we're going to talk about number 1 a lot. Then we're going to hear about number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then at that point is when we will either part ways to go do your homework or stay on to take a deeper dive into number 1 if you're new to this system. All right, Michelle, we can move ahead. So this is the 5 requirements. So offer in-person sessions to young people at least twice a month, or if you hit your maximum slot level, you can stop earlier. Program plans are going to be due May 27th. In advance of program implementation, there will be lots of support for preparing those and lots of tools and resources that you can use to build out those plans. Again, like last year, they will require you to complete a calendar where you indicate your minimum of 3 days a week in person. We are sticking with the same in-person requirement. So minimum 3 days, you can certainly do 4 or 5, but a minimum of 3. The high quality work sites, those can be in person or virtual. Once again, if you're using a virtual work site, you still need the 3 days a week in person, which means that as a provider site, you could have young people come to your site to log in for their virtual work. And while they're there, they can get those other sort of wraparound services, that mentoring, that support, the technology that they might need, all of those things. And adhering, of course, to the supervisor ratio and paperwork. We have lots of exciting trainings and a whole training calendar that we'll share in just a little bit. And some of those are optional, some are required, and complying with operational procedures is, of course, one of them. All right, we can continue to move along. So Farah touched on this, but I want to just spend a little longer sharing with you a little bit more about what this is going to look like. So PYN is going to play a stronger role in qualifying participants who are not connected to a provider. So there are essentially 3 ways a young person can apply via our website. They can say, a provider shared a code with me, or I saw it on the program locator, and this is the one program I want to get connected to. They can say, I don't know, and I just want to get connected to the PYN system. So for those who indicate that they are interested in getting connected, but they don't know which program they would like to be connected to, PYN is going to take a much larger role in helping get those participants through the qualification process and placed at a site. So same with onboarding connected to a job placement. We will be using centrally HR to streamline that process and allow for the individualized documentation based on the experience. And so we're going to just take this stronger role for work sites and young people who are not connected to a specific provider. If there's questions, as always, we welcome questions. One of our fabulous program managers, Dornella Harvey, is keeping track of questions. So you can put them in the chat. If we don't get to them right now, we will get to them tomorrow. You can also add them to the Jamboard. I do see one question about guiding us on the increase in incentives and tax implications. So a couple of folks on our team are working on providing resources and materials to support young people with materials that will support them in knowing how to manage that. We are referring out to resources provided by the IRS and outside organizations. We cannot directly provide tax advice to a young person, but we will be collating and gathering and sharing out videos and one-pagers and things like that. And just as a word of note, we did send out on Friday for young people who worked last year their tax documents. And then yesterday we sent a constant contact newsletter to all young people who were paid last year that included a number of those tax resources to help them go through this year's tax process. So we will continue to stay engaged with providing information from reliable outside sources. I also see about the work permits from SDP. Yes, we have a whole system to share that information efficiently and make sure that you are on board to do it correctly. And that will come from your program managers really soon. But you are able to hand out work permits if you demonstrate that you know how to do it correctly. We can go to the next slide. All right, so just bringing over my notes, they disappeared, my apologies. Bear with me for one moment. So with work sites, this is one of those where you need to have a little grace with us and a little patience, because we are working out some exciting things, but we don't have all the answers today. There will be a single point of access for summer 22 work sites. As a provider, your role will be to direct employers that you want to work with, work sites that you want to work with, to the PYN website, where there will be a survey and it's a single point of access. PYN will take it from there. Those work sites will be able to indicate if they are willing to work with any provider, one specific provider, certain region, those sorts of things. So if you are connected with a longtime work site and you want to continue to work with them, that is not going away. They will have the option to say, I am only interested in working with this provider. They will, that system is going to go live on 2/15, the same day that the application goes live. So again, as Farah mentioned, at least 4 weeks earlier, depending on which year you look at. But the youth application and the survey to get employers connected as a work site will both go live on 2/15, and PYN will manage that rather than you. Your role is to encourage potential employers, whether you're going to work with them or not. You might have friends, people in your network that would make for great sites, but they're not a match for your work. You can direct them to our website. We are looking to build a bigger pool of work sites that are open to working with different providers. So you are still responsible for building relationship with employers, directing them to our registration page, but we will also engage in that process with other employers and work to build that network for those of you that are looking for additional work sites. We'll be collecting information, including contacts, the industry, the type of experience, vaccine requirements, clearance requirements, and so on. So if you are at a point where you are looking for additional work sites, we will hopefully have a bank of those, and we will have the kind of information I just listed about those work sites. So that is the role of PYN, that is the role of the provider. So please let us know if there are other things that you would like to know about that process. If you have questions, we can take those in the chat. Cassandra, I see your note in the chat. If you can just put your organization and your email in a private chat to me, Erica Feldman. I might actually just be listed as WorkReady. So if you're not sure, you could do Rashay or Kai. One of them will be your program manager and can update the master spreadsheet to make sure that you are on all of our contacts. I see a message about the provider and the work site. We will walk through that with you when the time gets closer. It will be pretty straightforward. Rita, wonderful question. Unfortunately, youth who participated with a provider in summer 20 and 21 will still need to upload documents to Pindex. As Farah highlighted, this is our transition year. We are headed in a better direction, but this is the year that's a transition. So they will need to load documents into Pindex. We will, on the PYN side, roll them over into our centrally HR system. And then for next year, summer 2023, or if they do a WorkReady school year program or an E3 program or whatnot, any other PYN program, as Farah was getting at, that's the participant portfolio that will stay with them and no longer be required to get updated every year for things that are enduring, like a social security card or a birth certificate or those kinds of things. So this year, still need to do it again. I think Dornella is capturing. In terms of vaccines, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's going to be based on the work site that they're being assigned to. So we're going to talk more about that in a couple of moments, but it is not a PYN requirement. It is connected to the provider and the work site. And so in the onboarding process is when they will need to demonstrate that they have whatever materials are required by that work site. So if that work site requires, just like in years past, clearances, that's the time at which they do that. If that work site requires that you are vaccinated or that you prove if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, there's some situations like that. So whatever that requirement is, and that's part of our survey that we'll be sharing with you in just a little bit. So it's really not a PYN requirement. It's based on the provider and work site requirements. All right. Cassandra, I got your note. We will take care of that. All right, I am going to turn it over. You can keep the questions coming. We are also going to be sharing the Jamboard in a little while where you can put questions based on section, and we will, tomorrow will be focused on digging into your questions. But I'm going to turn it over to, I believe Kai is going first, and we're going to take a deeper dive into number 1.
Yes, that is correct. Michelle, do you mind going back to the initial slide really quickly for me, please? Just want to say good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Kai Hardy, and I am a program manager here at PYN. Some of you will probably receive an introductory email from me last week. Others of you would have received the same or similar email from my colleague, Rashay Walton. We are so excited to be here, so excited to get to know you all a little bit better and learn a little bit more about your programming. I do want to go over some housekeeping things, just 2 reminders quickly that I will not be pausing to answer questions during this section, but I do invite and encourage you to ask questions via the chat. As Erica stated, we do have a PYN staff member monitoring the chat who will follow up with you directly or record your question so that we can answer it at a later time. Secondly, I just want to remind you that this slide deck will be made available to you after the presentation, so all the resources here will be at your disposal shortly. Thank you, Michelle. So before we get into the details of qualifying and onboarding young people, I do want to take some time to talk about some of the tools we can use this summer to engage youth. The providers who are returning to WorkReady Summer will remember that last year we launched our WorkReady Summer Program Locator. We will be again using this tool again this year. And the tool really allows young people to sort of locate WorkReady Summer programs throughout the city, and they can use a variety of search criteria to find the best fit for them. So they can search on age, experience, industry, interest, location, etc. The program locator will also include a brief description of the program, as well as there will be indicators of the availability of each program embedded into the program locator. So we would really use like a color coding system to show, where the program is with its availability. So a green, for instance, a green circle would indicate that the program has availability, while a yellow or orangish circle would indicate that the program is nearing capacity, and finally a red circle would indicate that the program has limited capacity. So this is really, we want to use the WorkReady program program locator to allow youth to express initial interest in their program, which will bring me to my final point here about why it's very important that you take the time to complete the WorkReady Summer Program Locator survey. If Erica, if you could put that in the chat right now, that'd be really helpful. Please, excuse me. Okay. Please take time to check out the survey, and we are asking that you return the survey by February 4th so that we can get your programs the most up-to-date information into our program locator ahead of the launch date for the WorkReady Summer application. You can go to the next slide, Michelle. Thank you. Another youth engagement tool that I'm so excited that we're bringing back from last summer. Shout out to Jesus and Deja, is the WorkReady Summer Customer Service Center. So similar to last summer, the Customer Service Center will operate Mondays through Fridays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I just want to reiterate that this is really a resource intended for youth and families to help them navigate the WorkReady summer system. As we know, can be sometimes challenging for youth and sometimes for their families as well. So we really want to reserve the WorkReady Customer Service Center as an additional layer of support for youth and families. This does not, however, remove the expectation that we are expecting providers to really be that first line of support for youth and their families to navigate WorkReady summer, but we do want to, again, provide an additional layer of support because we know, as we know, youth have different varying layers of support in their personal lives. So if you would like to take a moment to take the email and phone number down to share with your youth and families, please do so. Great. Yep, we can go to the next slide. So now that we talked about some engagement tools that we can use this summer, we want to talk about qualification in more detail. I do want to point out, however, before we get into the nitty gritty of this, that PYN has we've modified our approach to qualification this summer. So in the past, we've qualified youth participants based on program models. This year, what we want to do is qualify youth for a PYN experience. So I know many of you may be wondering, like, Kai, what does that mean? Or what does that look like in practice? So I do want to, let's just start at the first step, which is intake. And you want to think of intake just as the initial application. And this is the young person saying, hey, PYN, we're interested in a PYN summer experience. So the first step will be intake, and that's completing and submitting an online application. And this will occur in Pendex. The next step is qualification. And this again will come after we receive a submitted, completed online application. In the qualification step, youth will be required to submit the documents to qualify for a PYN experience. We're going to look at the actual documents in more detail and then in a second in the next slide. But basically, they'll be invited to an electronic enrollment to submit the requirements for an opportunity. Again, we will look at these documents in more detail in the next slide. Finally, youth will be invited to onboard, and we want to think about this really similar to when we onboard for a job. So we have to submit and complete specific paperwork that is specific to the job. And so this will be the same thing for youth. I want to point out here that the onboarding will not happen in Pendex, that it will happen in the new HRIS system that Farah spoke about earlier. We can go to the next slide, Michelle, please. Thank you. Okay, so now we can talk a bit more about qualification, and you will see that the documents required for qualification are displayed on the screen under the column that says file components. So again, you will see the first step is intake, and that's that online application, and that's required for all participants applying for a PYN experience this summer. Then when you go down on the stage column, you will see qualify. So what I want to point out here is that there are some qualification documents that are universal to all participants. However, there are some documents, others that are conditional by age and or gender or sex assigned at birth. So I want to point out a couple of these documents in this moment. So if you look at the parental acknowledgement form, thank you, Michelle, is only going to be required for those participants who are 14 to 15 years old. Similarly, in a similar vein, if you look at the work permit, you will see that it's required for those participants who are 14 to 17 years old. Now, if we want to look at an example of a qualification document that is conditional by sex assigned at birth or gender, whatever you prefer to say, we can look at the proof of selective service registration, which is going to be required of those who were born male and are 18 years or older, while the proof of selective service registration is going to be required for those who are born male, but in their 17, but will turn 18 between July and August. So again, I really recommend when you're qualifying youth and working with them to complete this documentation that you refer back to this slide to ensure that you're completing the correct qualification documents based on the participant's age and or gender where that applies. We can go to the next slide, Michelle, please. Okay, so after you qualify the participant, and again, just as a reminder, the qualification and intake will both happen in Pendex, and then when they move to the onboarding stage, they will be moved to centrally HR. This is where Erica was speaking a little bit about that the onboarding documents are really going to be conditional to the employer/work site. So these documents will depend on the job that the young person is being placed into. So similar to the previous table, I recommend referring back to this table when you're in the onboarding stage to make sure youth are completing the necessary documents to be onboarded into their specific job. I know that's a lot of information. You can pause, take a deep breath and take it all in. But again, these tables will be made available to you after the training. And this really concludes my section. And I just want to say thank you again for being here. And I'm so excited to get to know you all and get to know and learn more about your programs. And I do want to give a happy birthday shout out to Michelle DePalter. So thank you.
Thank you, Kai.
You're welcome, Michelle. I believe we're going to Darielle next. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
All right, thank you, Kai. And thank you, Michelle. You can pop over to the next slide. So we're going to be talking about the next step. That was a big step, right? These will be relatively shorter, I think, but it is my pleasure to talk to you about the career development framework and about the program plan. So I typically work with OST Network and they know all about the career development framework and how passionate I am about it. So I'm super happy to be sharing it with all of you. So what is the career development framework? You're seeing this slide with this beautiful graphic. So PYN's career development framework provides a unified approach to skill development, career readiness, career retention, and advancement. The CDF bridges a career pathway needs of an emerging workforce or young people with the expectation of employers. So this green, all of these green bubbles I like to reference are what employers want, right, from young people or from anyone that they work with. And then the framework shows a pathway that varies based on the needs of each young person, beginning with awareness or that red band, proceeding through exploration and preparation, which is the yellow band or gold, and then the training and immersion phase, which is that teal color, and then culminating in employment and ultimately employment advancement, which is that green. The specific milestones serve as indicators that young people are on a path to success. That success looks like secondary credential attainment, post-secondary connection, and self-sustaining employment. The skills and the mindsets, which are those gray arrows, articulate what each person needs to develop in order to be prepared for the future of work and career advancement. These skills and mindsets are developed as well on the continuum of early, which again is the red, intermediate, which is the yellow or gold, and then the advanced, which is that teal color. And that's where you come in as providers. And that's what we want the program plan to sort of demonstrate. The continuum corresponds to the different program models that you'll be offering this summer. Michelle, if we can go over to the next slide. So you might be thinking, how does my summer program connect to this? If I'm a music organization or an art organization, how can we bridge that gap? And that's what the program plan is designed to sort of help you figure out. So we all want to emphasize project-based learning. So the first thing is, what is project-based learning, or PBL? Project-based learning is a teaching method in which students learn by actively engaging in real-world and personally meaningful projects. Students work on a project over an extended period of time, so for this case, the summer, and you engage them in solving real-world problems and answering a complex question. So one type of service learning or one type of project-based learning that you could offer is a service learning model. And service learning is, under the umbrella of project-based learning. But that's an educational approach that combines learning objectives with community service in order to provide pragmatic, progressive learning experiences while also meeting societal needs. So that's one option. And then another option is a reflection project. So an individual reflection project allows youth to reflect on what they have learned throughout their experience and demonstrate how those skills inform their goals and future plans. So this is very similar if you've done programs, if you've done a program plan last summer. Most of the actual program plan itself will not change. We're just asking you to think about it, a little bit further out in advance. Michelle, if you want to go to the next slide. So great. So the early and awareness, so those incentive-based programs must include a PBL or service learning sort of model. Again, if you've seen the program plan from last summer, it's pretty similar to what you did last summer, just, bridging that gap. And then the intermediate, you have the option to do a reflection project or a service learning project. And just emphasizing that all programs require a program plan, and they are all due May 27th. And just to sort of, if you're confused, if you've never done one before, you'll have plenty of opportunity to work on it. We will offer trainings, which I'll talk about in a future slide, but there will be an in-depth training on how to fill out a program plan, and also supports that you can use to enhance your plan as well. And Michelle, that's it for me. I'll pass it over to Erica.
Thank you, Dario. That was awesome. And like she said, this will be coming up, but I saw a couple questions going by in the chat around the program plans and samples and support, and there's going to be lots of that. There will be trainings. You'll get to see the schedule coming up very soon that will provide support and examples. And just like last summer, we will have coaches that will be able to support with that, and we'll be sharing lots of resources and things to help you with that. So if you've been noticing in the upper right-hand corner of each of the slides, we are documenting sort of where we are in this process. So the first slide, when I started speaking, I said there were 5 elements to what you need to do during your startup contract, which is right now through June. And we are now on number 3. So number 1 was about recruit, qualify, and onboard youth. Number 2 was about your program plan. And now we've arrived at number 3, which is recruit, qualify, and onboard work sites. I covered a lot of this in my intro, but I'll leave this slide up for a moment. So you're looking to make those relationships and connections to folks that you want to place youth in as a work site. For those of you running an early program, the work site might be yourself. And so work with your program manager to make sure that you understand that you're still creating a work site for the provider site and still placing the young person at that work site. That sometimes is confusing to folks new to the system if it's an early program or even an intermediate at times. But if the provider site and the work site are the same, you still create a work site agreement and you still place youth in that work site, and your provider can help you, your program manager can help you with that. So just reach out to whoever you've been hearing from, if it's Kai or Riche. And then this is really sort of what I walked through before, that you are directing them to our website as of 2/15. If you're making that connection and that relationship now, you can let them know as of 2/15 it'll be there, and that you'll keep them in touch and send it along. And then we will also support that engagement of work sites beyond the ones that you're making the connections. We will ensure that work sites meet, and this is on purpose vague, so I'm sorry. I know we all want specifics, but this is what happens when we change a lot and launch early. We're going to work with you for making sure that that work sites meet the necessary requirements related to health and safety. We are updating some things around the pre-safety certification, and as soon as that is ready, we will share it. It will either be the same or easier. It's not going to get harder. So I can offer that and details to come as soon as we have them. And you will get details in a couple of different ways. They will come from your program managers and they will come at trainings. And so bear with us, but for now, what you're doing between now and February 15th is building those relationships. So it'll be shared as soon as we're ready on the pre-certification. We can go to the next one, Michelle. So a little bit similar, we're still on number 3 about high quality work sites, but similar to what Darielle was walking through with the program plans and how we create a meaningful experience for our young people. Our work sites need to also be high quality places that create safe, physically safe, emotionally safe, and meaningful experiences for our young people that build the kinds of skills that Darielle shared on the CDF. This is sort of all under the same umbrella that we want our work sites to be providing experiences along that continuum that help build the skills and mindsets listed in the gray bars to help develop the attributes listed in the circles. And so some of those things are much more compliance driven, like adhering to OSHA and COVID-19 guidelines. And some of those are more about the type of work experience and adults that they get to connect with. So we will be continuing to talk about this. I saw something flash by in the chat about being able to take a certification from last year for a returning worksite. We're exploring all those kinds of questions and we will get back to you as soon as we have information. We're hoping in the next couple of weeks, before this 215 launch, we will have all of the details ahead of that to you about what will be required for the pre-safety certification. But this is an important slide for you to read and know, but I'm not going to read all the bullet points. You can do that when we share the slide deck. We are up to 107 people. Welcome to all the new folks who joined. Thank you, thank you. We are so glad you're here. If you feel like you're a little lost and jumping in the middle, no worries. This recording will be shared. This slide deck will be shared. There will be office hours starting Friday. Tomorrow is a Q&A. So if you're feeling like you missed a lot, no worries. So number 4, moving through year 5. We're now on number 4. We started with engaging and qualifying and onboarding youth, then program plans that you're onboarding them into these great experiences. And then around work sites, and now we're at complying with operational procedures. So there's a number of things. This is pulled straight from your startup scope of work. So here are the key things that you need to be paying attention to, but I will call out, I know sometimes there's a disconnect between the folks that sign the paperwork and the folks who run the program. And sometimes that disconnect means that you haven't seen what's been budgeted for or what you've agreed to in your LOI or your scope of work. So make sure you ask. It's hard for us to always know that, but make sure you just figure out who at your organization, if it's not you, would have signed these materials and ask for them. So here's the main things. Hopefully you're taking a glance at it. You'll take a deeper dive when we share this deck, but go back and ask for that LOI and that scope of work so that you can review this in detail. I think I saw a chat. Start dates, great question, Terry King. It is still 120 hours for wage-based programs. In early programs, it's geared at about 120 hours, but based on experiences and milestones rather than hours. And it will be after July, it'll be July 1st, but I believe Farah is talking with you about some specifics. So I will hold off on answering that directly for you, Terry. But implementation contracts will be from starting in July, and that's when the program will run, is in July and August. I will, Dornella, if you'll take note of that, if there are tighter parameters around it than that, but July and August. And so right now we're in the startup contract. We're focusing on things between now and June 3rd. Then you'll get your implementation contracts, and that will be for running the program in July and August. But confirmation on the 120, yes, unless you're in an innovation accelerator program and propose something different and we're approved for that. I just want to call out that caveat. All right, Michelle. Workshops and trainings, back to you, right, Darielle? Yes, take it away.
All righty, I'll be a little speedy with this one as well. So hello again, everyone. I'll talk to you just briefly about attending workshops and trainings. Michelle, if you could actually go to, well, no, we'll stay here. So you're required to attend and participate in some trainings. We will be offering a bunch of trainings coming up, and I'll share that on the next slide. And a different approach that we're going with this year is that they will be sort of on a consistent schedule, weekly, same Zoom invitation. So hopefully it'll be a bit more accessible to everyone. Michelle, if you could go to the next slide. Here is our calendar right now. We have some coming up in February and in March. As you can see, we have a privacy training, participant recruitment and enrollment deep dive, program plan training, Sterling training, work sites and program sites. So all of the questions that you're asking in the chat, if they're not answered tomorrow, they will certainly come up in the trainings in the upcoming weeks. We will share this Zoom link pretty soon. It's one recurring Zoom link. So my OST friends, the Triple C, we have the same Zoom link and we just meet every week consistently, very similar to that. And this will be all recorded, and these recordings will be shared. Slide decks will be shared, especially, this will be especially useful if you aren't hiring or onboarding summer staff until later. So you want to make sure all of the information is accessible for everyone at all times. So. And then also I want to call out that little yellow bar at the bottom, additional support available for office hours. So mostly Kai and Rashay, but all of the programs team will sort of be available on Fridays for those office hours for drop-in support as well. And I'll pass it back to Erica, I think.
Wonderful. So we are really excited for these trainings. There's going to be a lot of support answered, just like last year in the office hours, real-time support for things that you're stuck on, keeping in mind that your program manager is always an email away. If it's a youth-facing, family-facing question, somebody's stuck on how to use the program locator or something like that, hey, Zeus and Deja and their big team is at the ready 5 days a week, 9 to 5. But other things that come up, those Friday office hours will be that same fast moving, you ask what you need, we'll see if we can solve it in real time. There'll be a team of PYN folks, and then embedded in these Tuesday trainings will be these specific things, and these are the required recorded. We will share the slide deck. We will share this recordings. Darielle has got a fantastic Google Sheets already made to keep track of all of this, so you can just have one place you go to find these resources. So we can go to the next slide. We are almost done, folks. So we have talked about the 5 things you need to do during this startup period: engaging, qualifying, and onboarding youth and work sites, completing an amazing program plan that outlines a fantastic experience for your young folks at your great work sites or at your provider site, complying with all of the operational requirements and attending training so that you're really clear on what you need to do and how to do it at the highest quality. What is going to inform your implementation contract? So for those of you who are returning staff members, you understand that this is different. You were given a program band this year. If you don't know what program band you were given or what that means, again, I encourage you to reach out and get that LOI because it tells you. What we did is one contract code per organization. So I always like to highlight Congreso because they run
Just
so
came
many.
in, Bella, so you're not. Sorry.
Michelle, if you would just mute, awesome, thank you. They run so many wonderful programs in the PYN portfolio of programs. But if they are running 3 different summer programs, they will, in this startup period, have just one contract. And in that, they will be given the combined total of slots that they're looking to get at. That will be within a band, a range. So say 50 to 99. What we are looking for you to do during this is complete qualification for the minimum range of your band. So if you're in the 50 to 99 by April 15th, we're looking for you to have qualified 50 young people by April 15th. So keep in mind, those young people would then get that $150 incentive that we'll start paying out May 6th. And you will have met what we're asking you to meet by April 15th. You can keep going and recruiting more youth. But what we're looking for you to do is the number who complete the qualification against the minimum of your program band. Some of you might be thinking about that you have lots of youth who have expressed interest that you want to work with. They're connected to your program through the contract code that they've entered on the application, but they're not yet qualified. We will take that into account. We're also going to look at the number of work sites you've recruited and qualified and onboarded against your program band. And we're going to look at past performance, slot utilization, retention, and youth satisfaction. And then, as always, we jump into this whole process with a bit of unknowns around funding. So we will refine what we can do based on available funding. So your program band, these definitions are important, and they're not really different than some of the things we did last year, but we're putting some new language around it. So your program band is the range of slots you can utilize, and you must reach the low end by April 15th. Intake is somebody pressed, I'm interested in this program. Qualification is what Kai went through with those great charts, submitted their documents and eligibility proof. That is the point we are trying to get to by the end of May. We want 5,000 young people through the qualification steps by the end of May. And all of them would then be eligible for that 150 incentive. Onboarding is the next step when they become connected to a work site and they get the additional documentation. Maybe it's the vaccine, maybe it's clearances, maybe it's the I-9, all of those documents happen at onboarding. For April 15th, we're looking for qualification. So we can go to the next step, Michelle, this next slide that makes this hopefully really clear. And you will get this slide deck so you can review this. So participants complete intake. We'll look at what's your program band. It says program scale here, but this is the range of bands we have. And your LOI will tell you which band you're in. And we will look at what you have done by April 15th, and then your total by June 30th. Same on qualified and worksite development. And this is how we will inform what your implementation contract looks like. So beginning in the beginning of April, we'll start looking at the numbers. By April 15th, we'll really lock down those numbers. And then over the next, let's say 2 weeks, we will make those determinations and get your contracts out to you. So I'm just going to check the chat. Riche, Kelly, you can work with Riche on the details for OST because it is a little different, and I don't want to confuse anybody that's not part of the OST network. Farah, with a helpful note in the chat, contracts will be July 1, 22 to September 30, 22. Programmatic window will be July 1st through August 26th. So Terry, as People for People figures out their program, that is your window. And just with a note around the holiday and when people might actually start. I think there might be one more thing that we can address. I think we're good. Anything burning that you've seen go by, Dornella, that we should address right now? Okay, we'll give that a pause. Michelle, we can go to the next. So any of you who have been to an E3 training or do workshops with Madison and I are very familiar that we always end with a reflection. So this is not the end for those of you who are new staff members and are going to stay on, but for those of you who are returning staff members, this is where we're going to give you your homework and send you on your way. But first, and yes, Sophie, your triple C's are going to take care of all the OST specific stuff. So you will get all the specifics you need. Awesome. So anybody who is not familiar, you should see a bar across the top of your screen that says you are viewing Michelle DePolter, birthday girl screen. And then you can click the drop down next to view options. You can select annotate. And then you can select stamp and pick whichever shape you like. And you can tell us so far, with everything we have shared with you in the last hour and 45 minutes, how are you feeling? Are you clear? Are you frustrated? Are you calm and peaceful, excited, bored like those two girls, maybe a boy and a girl, confused? Let us know if annotating is confusing you, just drop it in the chat. It's awesome that we're seeing so much and excited, few people feeling calm. If you can feel calm and peaceful during WorkReady startup, you are set for life. Glad to see that a few people feel clear. Confused a bit, thank you for sharing. We're getting quite a few in the confused, so I'm really glad you're being honest. Please review the materials, put your questions in the Jamboard I'm about to share, and reach out to your program manager and come tomorrow. Nice job, Joseph, with the text. Netter Center is excited. Charmaine is excited. Somebody is somewhere between clear and frustrated, maybe. Somebody else, Luke, is clear. That's great. Those of you who can find inner peace right now, that is awesome. Friday is tomorrow and Friday are to get these questions answered. Okay, there's so many good, between calm and peaceful and oh my God. Robin, I hear you. I think that's how I feel most days. So many great ones in the chat. Thank you to everybody participating. Excited but confused, ready and excited for our youth. That is awesome. So this is all great. You can continue to give us feedback in the chat. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a Jamboard. Some of you are probably used these many, many, many times. Some of you might be totally unfamiliar, but it's a link. It's a Google product, so it sort of should work for everyone. Please go ahead and open that. And if you're having any difficulties, let us know. The request now is that those of you who feel pretty good about these youth engagement enrollment steps, you may sign off and bid us adieu. Take that Jamboard. You have an hour and 12 minutes that we're giving back. Open, you will, in just moments, you will be receiving, all of you, the slide deck from Riche or Kai, depending on who your program manager is. It will have this link to the Jamboard again. It will have the slide deck. Go through it. There are slides we did not show you today. They were hidden for this presentation, but they are in the slide deck that you're about to receive. And go through the whole deck, add to the Jamboard. Any question that you didn't get your answer to today, add it to the Jamboard. If you need any help with the Jamboard, you can reach out to your program manager, me, or Darielle, or Professor Google. But you're clicking on the thing that looks like a sticky note, and that'll add one, and then you just type your question and you move it to the section that best fits. Both days are required for everyone. Tomorrow starting at 9. We're going to go through the slide deck that's expanded and take questions section by section. So the youth qualification, and then program plans, and then worksite qualification, operational requirements, and sorry, there's a lot happening. So we'll go through each section and answer your questions. Anything that doesn't get answered tomorrow, Friday is office hours, so you can have a quick turnaround to getting those questions answered. It won't load. I've never heard of that, Charmel. Interesting. I guess that's a thing that we didn't know about. So we will make a second version, and I will do that very quickly we're going to take a quick little break. I will make a second version and a third version, and we will send you all 3. If one is full, go into the other one. I've never run into that. We are a big group, which is really exciting. Brianna, that's one of our unknowns, whether you will have multiple contract codes this summer or just one. We're working on that, and we'll tell you the second we know. You will be the first to know. So everyone, let's take a 10-minute break. Come back at 11 if you have never run WorkReady before, or if you are a returning provider who just feels like, I want to take that deep dive. Riche is going to walk us through a deeper dive on what you really need to do to get you through the qualification process. So it's really informative. All the information is on the slides. So your choice if you're a returning provider. If you're new, please take a 10-minute break and come back at 11.
And what I could add to that, I'm just trying to find my video to help Brianna's question. So for engagement and qualifications, you have been issued one provider referral code. So you are only filling out online applications with one provider referral code. That is correct. Where what I have been calling payment type, which has then become equivalent to the type of model you will be running, your payment type, your jobs may be different based off of that. And that's what we're exploring when you get to onboarding. Will you have programmatic codes per job, or will you just be assigning kids to a profile job that includes an incentive type of payment or a wage type of payment?
Did I just get kicked out? I completely forgot. I completely forgot.
Somebody needs to mute themselves, please. And I just saw something from somebody saying, I will return at 11. Please return at 9 tomorrow. You are returning at 11 if you have never run a WorkReady program. But tomorrow, everyone is returning.
I just put the link to a second Jamboard in the chat. For some reason, I'm not able to type, but try to add another one.
Able to type either, Darielle, but
What's
thank
going
you.
on? No problem. I'll try to do a third
Bianca,
one too.
we are set to go 9 to noon tomorrow as a cushion. Not anticipating that it will go all the way till noon, but we will begin taking Q&A based on, I see so much activity in our Jamboard already. Thank you. So 9 o'clock, we'll kick it off with a welcome and we'll dive right into your questions. I see people are doing an awesome job adding them into step 1 around engaging and qualifying participants, step 2, program plans, step 3, work site, step 4, operational compliance, step 5, workshops, and then other. If you've got something that you don't see where it fits, this will continue to grow and expand. You can also, yeah, great. I'm seeing lots of activity. That's wonderful. I see a question about PPE. You should have received a welcome from your program manager with a link to a survey about PPE. We definitely have some left from last year that we are figuring out the most efficient way to get it to you when we can. We will be looking into ordering more based on how you respond to this survey. So you should have a welcome email from your program manager that introduces themselves, either Kai or Rashay, and has a link to a survey asking you about PPE. I am going to try to find that right now. Sorry about that confusion, Candace. We did not realize that. It was intended to be for both days. And yes, you should register for tomorrow and it is the same link. Thank you for these great questions. Feel free to take that little break before we go into the deep dive on youth qualification with Rashay, so that you can take care of yourself a little bit before we start back up. And there will be lots of time in this 11 o'clock hour to learn more about the youth qualification process. And then we will continue to take all your questions in the Jamboard, or if you need to just email them because it's not working, just let us know. I am copying the link for the PPE right now. We only have 15 responses and we're looking to have approximately 65. So if anybody, any of the 70 you still on this call have not taken the PPE survey, please do so. I'm just grabbing the link. It takes a moment, Michelle. And it really just asks you what it is that you would want if we're able to provide it. That should work for you. Yes, we will record the 11 o'clock session and you will be getting the slide deck. Sophie, yes, you are included in the PPE survey. Please take it.
So Erica, I think that could be the distinction and the challenge that we're having right now. So to that point, I guess the bigger statement to the audience is PYN has only released LOIs and program referral codes to WorkReady summer providers. OST high school model for school year programs have not received any contract materials for summer WorkReady yet. So I think the thing that we need to pay attention to, Rashay and Kai, is are we actually looping in OST context or only context related to summer 64 codes? And so that might just be something that we want it for everybody, but that could be just our district.
Yeah, let's chat internally. Let's give folks another moment or so to come back. And then we can hand it over to Rashay.
The slide deck email will be coming later, Kelly. Thank you for asking. If someone would like to start sharing the slide deck so that we can just jump right in once folks get back. Thank you. I'm just gonna give it one more minute. I know we said 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes was 11:01. So just one more minute for folks running back from taking a stretch, heating up their coffee, stuff like that.
Thank you, Rashay. That's perfect. And for those of you who are already here, the slides that Rashay is going to share are in the slide deck that you will be getting via email. And so everyone will be able to see those.
All righty. So Erica, do you think it's a good time to start or?
This seems perfect, Rashay. Michelle, maybe you could just unspotlight Rashay for a moment and we could have the folks either come on camera or give us a thumbs up. We want to make sure we're talking to real people. And Michelle, just a quick note, you're going to have to
Do I have to switch PowerPoint?
no, I'll send it to you again. If you refresh, it will have all of the hidden slides. Thank you, Michael Diaz. It should have all of the unhidden slides. The slides that were hidden now be unhidden. Thank you for all chatting us that you're here. So you'll get to a point where they were hidden. And now they should not be if you refresh. Yep, you're good. So you'll start on 39 once Rashay is ready. Present, present. It's like we're all good little school children. Present.
All righty, I'm going to jump right into it. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rashay Walton. I'm a program manager here at PYN. I see a lot of familiar faces. You may know me from Out of School Time Network or previous summer programs, school year programs, or wherever. So it's good to see you guys again. Thank you for all staying on. I know that was a big ask for some of you. But really excited to see you guys, really excited to get started with this summer kickoff. And, let's just get into a little bit more about the engaging, qualifying, and onboarding of your participants. So to do all these things, you're going to need a few tools, right? So we have a few platforms that some of you may be familiar with already. So Pendex, which is our primary system of record. And I'm sorry, I kind of got a little too excited there. I did want to start with a few housekeeping items. One, I'll probably, just be going through this. A lot of the questions that you have may get answered during the presentation. But if you do have any questions or concerns, just for the sake of time, if you could just place them in the chat, and I'll try to either pause or answer them, the ones I can at the end, or we'll just come back and share them tomorrow. Secondly, if something that I share is confusing or anything of that nature, again, just place it in the chat and I'll, slow down or give a little bit more details on that. The material that I covered today will be covered in a deeper dive when we get to youth enrollment trainings and things of that nature. But this is kind of just to serve as a deeper overview for folks who are new to summer programming or have returned, but it's been a while and you just want to, refresh a few items. So jumping right back into it, we're going to go over our digital enrollment tools. So the first one being Pendex. Pendex should be familiar to some of you. It is our primary system of record. It is where our young people complete their online applications. It tracks their completion, their enrollment status. And it is also where young people upload their documents. Pen Portal is our own personal, I want to say YouTube. It's our resources. It's where you'll find documents. It's where you'll find trainings, things of that nature. ShareFile is where you can upload documents such as your timesheets, incentive plans, and things of that nature. Is a secure tool where the things that you upload are safe and protected. So it's like our little safe. And then Sterling is the system that we use to run clearances for our providers and young people. It holds the clearances for or clearance statuses for young people and providers who have worked with us in the past, all including worksite supervisors. So if you're looking at these systems and you're like, Rashay, I don't have access to any of these, or maybe I did, I don't know what happened. If you're a new user, you've never had access to this, you will need to complete a end user license agreement. You can complete that by reaching out to either myself or Kai, your program manager, to say, hey, I need access, or somebody on my team needs access, and we'll provide you with that form. You can return it to us for processing. We commit to I believe 5-day turnaround on those items. If you are a returning staff user, you've had access to these items, but you're locked out, your access says it's expired or anything like that, you can again reach out to Kai or myself and we can get you back in those systems. All right, so let's just hop on over to the next slide.
Oh, shit.
So the first stage, engage, qualify, and onboard young people. We at PYN always have young people across the city who are interested in working with you for Summer WorkReady, but they may not be already connected to a provider. We have a few resources and elements that can allow you to connect with young people across the city of Philadelphia who want to get involved in a Summer WorkReady program. So one of those tools mainly being our recruit and release feature in Pendex. And we can pop over on the next slide to learn a little bit more about that. So the recruit and the release feature is in Pendex. It is a feature that allows you to view youth applications who are not connected to a provider currently. in this feature, you can see different demographics of young people to kind of customize to see which works for your program. So if you know you want to work with high schoolers, or you only want to work with young people in West Philadelphia because you know your work sites are going to be in West Philadelphia, you want youth from a certain school or any of those things, you can kind of customize the field so that you see young people who fit the needs and wants of your program. From there, you can recruit them into your contract code and then begin to reach out to them to say, hey, you know, you want to work with me? What's going on? Things of that nature. In the event that you work with a young person and maybe they decide to say, hey, I'm going on vacation, I can't work this summer, and you don't want to impact your own slot level, you can also release them into the general pool so that they no longer show up underneath your contract code. We're going to pop on over to the next slide. The online application portal. So young people can engage or connect in two different ways, either via online or by paper application. Most of our young people connect in the online application. It can be accessed on a tablet, on a phone, on a computer. And it just asks the young person basic information, their name, their address, what school they go to, their social security number, their date of birth, things of that nature. And then the paper application asks pretty much the same thing, but is reserved for young people who may need special accommodations in completing the application. And yes, there will be training on how to navigate these systems and things of that nature. So we can go to the next slide. So once you see young people in the online application status, they have completed their application, it's submitted. Apologize, I was not expecting that. Let's ignore it. So young people who have completed an online application, they now need to be invited to enroll. So in our system, Pendex, you can invite your young people to electronic enrollment. Inviting them to electronic enrollment will allow you or the young person to then go back and upload documents directly into their application. So in order for you to do this, you will log into Pendex. You will go into the enrollment tab, which is shown so beautifully on the right of your screen. You will scroll down to enroll applicants, and then you will see young people in your contract code. If you have more than one contract code, you may need to toggle to get into the contract code that you know that you provided for the young person to apply to. Once you see the young people that you or young person that you want to enroll, you'll click on the box that's next to your name. If there's more than one, we have this cool feature when you just do select all, so you're not just clicking one by one. And then after you click select all or enroll or whatever the case may be, you'll click the enroll button. A pop-up will appear that shows all young people that you want to work with. You'll just make sure that everyone that you wanted to select is there, and then you'll click electronic enrollment and submit. By doing this, an email will be sent to the young person that lets them know that, hey, you know, somebody is inviting you to enroll. In about 24 hours, you'll be able to upload your documents. So start working on those documents, completing your enrollment forms or getting copies or pictures of your vital documents. And then you'll be able to upload, you or the young person will be able to upload their documents into their application. You're still able to host in-person enrollment sessions. I know it's a requirement for this year, but this allows you to eliminate that paperwork feature. It's kind of tedious. This allows you to just have young people maybe complete things online, and maybe they just need to bring vital documents to you for you to copy or scan into their application. So the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more.
Roche, I do want to just point out a previous slide and then this slide. So on this slide, it says there is an option for in-person enrollment. I want to be clear to the audience that in order for every kid to have access to upload and to get the universal emails from PYN, you must select electronic enrollment. Otherwise, that young person is not being communicated by PYN, and you are responsible for the next phase of this process to to engage and qualify them with forms and vital docs. So in the previous slide, we asked them not to use in-person enrollment options. We're asking everybody to select electronic enrollment so that young people and providers are getting the same message and the same communication and the same ability to upload. When in-person enrollment is selected, the provider only has the ability to upload and receive the communication. The participant is not communicated to. And so to streamline the process, we are asking for you to select electronic enrollment, and I am working on the back end to remove the in-person selection option. What that does mean or doesn't mean is how you engage the young person to those in-person enrollment sessions still is a requirement. We're still asking you to host in-person enrollment sessions, and we're asking you to still host to get in person to complete the phases of qualification.
Okay, thank you for calling it out, Michelle. So before I move on, I do just want to, I did see your question, Robin. It's a bit OST, maybe community school specific. So you and I can chat offline about your requirements for summer. So just a reminder, some resources that you have available to you and your young people. So the WorkReady program, summer program locator, Pendex updates, updated website and participant resources, and our good old wonderful customer service center. We also have a YouTube channel where if you're not already subscribed, click that subscribe button, check into our videos. We have a lot of great tools and resources to help our young people create an email and complete any of the forms that we'll talk about today. All right, so next slide. So if you are familiar with WorkReady or any of our programs, you might wonder why we ask young people to complete so much paperwork. Like they're students, they're kids, why so much? It's not us. There are a lot of things that go into making these experiences happen for young people, and a lot of compliance as well. So just briefly, you can look at the federal employment requirements versus state and local law or funder requirements, and then PYN. PYN is all the way over at the end. We have very few requirements, but we are barred by the laws that govern the land. So these are just a few, just the answer to that question of why so much paperwork, what is required by which branch of government or funder. We also ask, you might hear this a lot, that youth are eligible for programming. What does that mean? Eligible basically means that they are able to prove or satisfy these requirements. So are they of age? Do they have a social security number? Or can they prove citizenship? Can they prove that they're a Philadelphia resident? Can they provide proof of income? And if applicable, can they provide proof of selective service registration? As you start to enroll your young people, these are things that you would want to keep in mind, just to make sure that you're not bringing a young person on and through the process that technically is ineligible for a WorkReady summer experience. So there are different ways that we ask young people to prove these areas of eligibility. So there are multiple ways to prove a social security number, to prove Philadelphia residency, selective service, and date of birth. As you see there, there are a list of documents for each one, but there may come a time where you work with a young person who you need to prove their Philadelphia residency and they don't have a work permit, they don't have business mail, they don't have a driver's license, state ID, school ID. In those cases, we ask that you reach out to either Kai or myself to kind of get an idea of what works for that young person. Sometimes one document will knock out multiple areas of eligibility. For example, a birth certificate it'll prove age and date of birth, and it'll also prove citizenship if the birth certificate is in a place that it's in the United States. So just little things like that are key to keep in mind. But as you begin to enroll your young people and ask them for little eligibility things, you may want to start to look at these items, just checking with your young person. Hey, do you know where your social security card is? Do you not have one? Okay, let's start the process to, request a replacement. Or do you still have your school ID? Maybe you've been virtual for a while. And, I know a few years ago, there was an issue with ninth graders who enrolled in high school, but because they were virtual, they never got a school ID, right? So just keeping some of these things in mind as you begin to enroll your participants. We can go over to the next slide.
Rashay, just, to add to that, one of the things that we started working with other providers to do to satisfy proof of residency is we encourage them to mail the young person something, welcoming them to your program or inviting them to a session or follow-up discussion. If you actually copy that envelope when the kid brings it back, that is their business mail. So business mail is anything addressed to the young person. And as long as they come to that appointment, copying that envelope can justify business mail for a participant. Just sharing, as Rashay did, alternative ways to satisfy whether or not you need more than one document or one document that can satisfy.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Excuse me. And so the other area of qualification and onboarding is the enrollment file. So the enrollment file consists of documents that the young person needs to have a completed file. So depending on what type of program or experience a young person will be having this summer will dictate the amount or type of paperwork that they'll need to complete. This year, we're taking a different approach. Providers will be able to access enrollment forms that will be fillable PDFs, depending on what type of enrollment what type of enrollment process you'll have for your young people. You can print these forms out, have them ready and available at enrollment sessions, and in real time have young people complete these forms. Or maybe you want to just send them to the young people directly in their email, have them complete them, save them to a hard drive or their tablet, laptop, or whatever, and then bring them to your enrollment session to be printed out. So again, the individual forms and packets will be made available to you on the WorkReady website. I know sometimes a young person may complete a form and maybe they sign something in the wrong place or don't forget to, they forget to put a date or anything like that. So instead of you having to wait to reach back out to PYN to see if we can resend a document, you have the power in your hands to go into our website, access those forms, save them to your computer, your workstation, and provide them to your young people once they need them. In the past, we've asked that young providers screen applications, which just means that we ask for you to have another set of eyes on the enrollment file, on the young person's online application, just to make sure things are completed correctly before it gets to our quality review staff. We know that can be sometimes a tedious level embedded into your process, depending on your slot level. So we are no longer asking providers to provide screen files, but it is, I would say it is kind of a good thing to keep in mind if you might be working with some younger students who have never completed, say for instance, an I-9 or a W-4. These documents can be a little bit difficult. We do have YouTube resources where a young person or a family can log on and view at any time to see how to complete those documents, but you also may just want to, embed it into your process where you take a double check to make sure, hey, did you sign it? Okay, yeah. Did your mom sign it? All right, good. We're good to go. So next slide.
So I do just want to point out two things, Rashay. We are not using Adobe Sign to send out packets this year. And providers are no longer required to provide a screen files to submit files for QR. PYN staff will be managing submission and monitoring QR of documents and files submitted into
Yeah. So income determination, if you remember, proof of income is one of our areas of eligibility. Young people can do this in a couple different ways. So the proof of income form or income determination form asks for two things. It asks for family size and it asks for proof of income. In the past, I've seen a lot of young people and providers alike get caught up on the family size issue. I just want to bring to your attention that family size focus solely on the participant. So it's not the participant, mom, dad, sister, brother, whoever else lives in the household. It really asks you, Michelle DePolter, are you married? Do you have any children? If the answer is no to both those questions, then your family size is 1. If you're married, your family size is 2. If you're married and when you have a child, then your family size is 3, and so on and so forth. But most of our participants fall into the family size of 1 section. After you identify your family size, you're then going to identify your proof of income. So for one, has a young person worked in an actual job in the last 6 months? So workforce developments like WorkReady, summer, OST programming, school year, things like that, those don't count as jobs. So we wouldn't include that information. But say if your participant worked at Starbucks or McDonald's after school, that in the last 6 months, that would be income that they would have to report. So it's really simple if a young person works. If a young person has worked in the last 6 months or is working currently, they will need to submit two consecutive pay stubs that proves their income for the month. If a young person doesn't work, then their proof of income will look a little bit different, right? So we'll ask if they receive any benefits. If they do receive benefits, then they may need to provide additional paperwork to prove what they receive. If they don't receive benefits, then there's another section that they can complete to see if they have any barriers or if they are a Philadelphia resident. Again, proof of Philadelphia residency is a requirement for eligibility. So technically all your young people should fall in the Philadelphia residency section. So once they confirm that they're a Philadelphia residency resident, they will have to complete a high poverty worksheet to confirm if their address falls into a poverty zone. There are a few poverty zones throughout the city of Philadelphia, and so there is a very real chance that one of your young people may or may not fall into this category. If they do not have monthly income, if they do not receive benefits, if they do not have any other barriers, but they receive nothing, they get no money, then there's a very good chance that this young person will fall into the zero income category. I know this may be a lot to take in, especially when you don't see the form in front of you or have like a real life example. I do just want to call out that this form, other forms that I'll talk about and have talked about, will be covered in a youth enrollment training. But this is just to give you kind of a background into one of our more difficult files. I've seen a lot of young people and providers alike get into a little bit of a pitfall when completing this document. We can go to the next slide, which, if I'm not mistaken, talks a little bit more about this. So this is just a few. So if I ask, if the young person received benefits, these are examples of benefits. So medical assistance, food stamps, which is called SNAP, income assistance, which might be TANF, Social Security income, things like that. Monthly income, again, if a young person doesn't receive anything, they'll complete a self-attestation form of zero income. If the income is greater than 0, for instance, because they work, then they will either need to submit their pay stubs or submit a letter from an employer that says, hey, this young person works for me and this is what they make. This was the last day they worked, and that's pretty much all the information that we would need from them. Here are a few of the barriers that I discussed. So a barrier could be the young person is pregnant or parenting, they are court involved, they are in foster care or currently aging out, They may have a disability. They have already dropped out or at risk of dropping out. They have a basic skills deficiency. They are a migrant, or they need a little bit more assistance to enter or complete an educational program in order to secure and retain employment. So this is, it's a lot. And there are a lot of different ways that, a young person might actually have a barrier without even knowing it. So if you think that this, was one of your participants, then we can talk offline, and just kind of figure out where your young person might fall in it. Again, I see your question, John, about homeschool. Again, we can talk offline because there might be other parameters that the young person is currently dealing with that will cause them to fall in this section. So we can go to the next slide. Clearances. I do want to call out, not every young person has to complete clearances. So as mentioned in the earlier parts of this training, clearances are really for young people who are being placed at a work site where clearances are required. So that basically means that the place that are putting a young person requires them to be in direct contact, have routine interaction or supervision of other children. So this could be at a childcare facility, right? If you place a young person into a daycare, they will need to get clearances depending on what their role at the daycare will be. If they're going to be in the classroom, at the playground, at the summer camp with the young people, then they most definitely will need clearances. So depending on the young person's age and residency, and from the last 10 years will depend on what type of clearances they will complete. All young people will need to complete a state criminal history check and child abuse clearance if clearances are required. So I don't want my language to confuse anybody. I'm talking specifically if you place a young person in a job where clearances are required, minimally, they will need to complete a state criminal history check and a child abuse clearance. If the young person is over 18, or if they have not lived in Pennsylvania for the last 10 years, they will also need to complete a FBI fingerprinting criminal background check. So clearances are something to keep in mind just when you're looking at work sites, when you're thinking about, okay, I know I want to place this young person or these young people into this type of experience. So it's minimally something that you just keep in the back of your mind as you begin to look at work sites and think about where you're going to place your participants. Again, I know this is like one of those things where it's like, if you're not in it, like I hear you, Rashay, but I need to go through the process. I completely understand. This will be covered at a later date. We'll have office hours to talk about it. And then Kai and I will be there to hold your hand and walk you through the whole clearance process. So again, I mentioned earlier that Sterling is the system of record where we use to launch and pay for youth and supervisor clearances. Sterling may be where this starts, but like for the child abuse clearance, Pennsylvania has its own state system, which is called Compass, where a lot of that work takes place. And then for FBI fingerprinting, young people actually have to go to a fingerprinting center to get that done. That fingerprinting center is normally contracted by the company Indentigo. It's a nice name. But starting the process in Sterling is what triggers those other entities. So again, this is just a little bit about who gets what clearances. So, and then how long they exist. So young people's clearances last for 5 years from this prior to the date that the program starts. I believe, and Michelle DePolter, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe for adults or for people over 18, then is it 5 years or is it 3 years? I feel like it might be a difference in that, and you could place it in the chat if you want. But again, this just goes over some of the
So right now, the law, to your point, Rashay, is clearances are valid within a date range of 5 years. the law changed, so there is no longer a provisional hire approval, which is why the 18 and older can no longer waive the FBI criminal background check.
Okay. Okay. And so this slide just goes over information that I talked about before. In order for you to initiate the clearance process, one, you'll have to have a young person complete the FBI disclosure waiver form. If they're under 18, they will need a parent or guardian signature. And then you will start the process in the system of record Sterling. You will control what clearances the young person will get. So again, minimally, they'll have that child abuse, they'll have that state criminal history check. And then if the young person is over 18 or in their FBI disclosure statement, they indicate that they are over 18 or they haven't lived in Pennsylvania for the last 10 years, they will need to complete a FBI fingerprinting check as well. Again, you'll get more training on this, some to-dos, some to-don'ts, and just a few helpful hints along the way. A big thing to point out is that clearances need to be submitted before a young person can start their job. So if you know that you have a work site already in mind, it's a summer camp that's not too far from where your program is, you know how many students can go there, you may want to start identifying early on in your enrollment process who is going to be going to those programs so you can start their clearances as soon as possible. So the young people that we work with, I think I would be classified as a millennial. The young people that we work with are called General Z. We polled some General Z youth and Generation Z, youth. And one thing that they expect more than anything is responsiveness. They want to know who, they want to know what, they want to know when, they want to know why, and they want to know it now. So we've seen that young people almost have decided just not to work with WorkReady Summer because it just took too long for someone to get back to them, but not because the process was too difficult for them to understand. So we just want to call out, as you begin your enrollment process, as you start to have your enrollment sessions, the way that you can kind of like keep your young people engaged, keep them informed. I'm gonna go to the next slide. So when it comes to like materials, troubleshooting and things like that, you want it to be eye-catching. You want it to have graphics. It should be short and sweet and to the point whenever possible. It should contain videos. It should contain things that are youth-oriented and youth-driven language. A lot of the time, the young people who we work with receive support from a family member if they had issues. So we've seen in the past that engaging not only the young person, but their parent, their trusted adult, their caring adult that's in their life that's helping them move through the process is also going to help you enroll them faster. Sometimes that caring adult is a person saying, hey, Michelle, did you complete your application? Did you start that? Maybe you should get on that. They are oftentimes in the home or in the school or in the community with the young person, and they can provide that extra level of support to them. So it's important to engage them as well. You've also reported that meetings in Zoom or other virtual platforms were very helpful when they needed to kind of walk through something in the enrollment process that was difficult for them. I know over the summer, I talked to one provider who stated that she just had office hours. She had a designated time every week where her participants can kind of hop on and say, hey, Ms. Johnson, can you help me walk through this process? Hey, I'm having trouble with this form. I can't save this, and things of that nature. And that kind of helped her reach her slot level a lot quicker. So these are just a few things to keep in mind. I'm pretty sure you guys, you work with young people every day. You probably already know this, but just some things to call out that might make your enrollment and engagement process a little bit more easier. So next slide. And that is it for me. So I feel like I got a lot of the questions that were in this chat. I'm just gonna look back really quickly. Yep, I believe I got everything. And if I didn't, Michelle DePolter did. So again, we encourage you to use the Jamboard, ask any questions, excuse me, that you may have in the Jamboard, place them in the chat. For the student age, what reference date do we use? At the time of enrollment. So it really honestly depends on what you're doing, but the safest answer I can give you is at the time of enrollment.
I think, Nicole, you're asking a good question. So let's talk about engagement. My engagement at online application is about the age at online application, right? So if I'm going to be 14 on July 5th, but when I fill out the application, I'm 13, I only can fill out the application based off of my age. When you are qualifying for the information a participant will be at job placement, which is July 1st. So I use that example as in front of you, you have a male who is 17 and you are qualifying them. They will be 18 on July 5th. So if I'm 18 on July 5th, I need to register for selective service and I do not need a work permit. So there are two ages, age at engagement and age at qualification. So for qualification, you are determining qualifications for the participant's age when they start the job. So not at application, it is at job start date.
Alrighty, and if there are any more questions or concerns, again, you can place them in the chat. We'll answer them all tomorrow when you guys return. If you haven't registered for tomorrow, maybe take a couple seconds, register. You will be receiving information from either Kai or myself, depending on who your assigned program manager is, that contains the slide deck, surveys that you might not have had the chance to look at or taken yet. We just ask that if you haven't, you've done those things, and we'll pop back on tomorrow, bright eye and bushy tail, to answer your questions. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention. I cannot wait to work with you all this summer. Woo, woo.
Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. We're giving you back 20 minutes. You should be getting that email very soon, and you can review, add to the Jamboard, take the surveys. And like Rashay said, we will chat with you tomorrow to answer questions. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Rashay. Oh, wait. Thanks, Farah. Thanks, Aisha. Great. I think it's just us.